Gamers, today I'm going to be talking about the differences, the big differences between Age of Empires 4 and Age of Empires 2. So obviously there's going to be an expansion coming out that is going to be very, very exciting, very big expansion, and I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of players trying out AoE 4 for the first time or coming back. So what I wanted to do is make a video similar to the one that I made for StarCraft 2, explaining AoE 4 to StarCraft 2 players. I wanted to make a video explaining the differences in AoE 4 compared to AoE 2. Just so that if there's any AoE 2 players that are maybe willing to try AoE 4 or they're not sure what the big differences are, you know, maybe it gets overwhelming with the amount of civs or different civs and new stuff. I wanted to kind of make a little guide for you guys. So, number one, difference between AoE 4 and AoE 2, the civs are a lot more unique, but there are a lot less civs compared to AoE 2. So obviously AoE 2 has been out for much longer. AoE 4 came out, 2 years ago. So right now we have 10 more civs. There will be more civs, I'm assuming, in the future. Basically, the civs in AoE 2 are a lot closer to one another than they are in AoE 4. In AoE 4, civs share some of the same units, share some of the same upgrades, but obviously every civ has like 3-4 unique units to them, but also the playstyles are completely different. Like, I'll just give you guys a couple of examples. Like, English is a very defensive civ with defensive bonuses. Malian is a civ that focuses on a lot of gold. Mongol is a civ that focuses on trading. Delhi is a civ that focuses on sacred sites. Abbasid is a little bit of everything. French is on aggression, and that's kind of their special stuff. So whichever playstyle is yours, you're going to be able to find what civ suits you the best. I also have videos explaining each civ in great detail, like every single thing that the civilization has. It's also on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. Number two thing is there are no team game civ bonuses. So in AoE 2, whenever you pick a civ, it has, I don't know the exact details or numbers, but for example, you would pick, let's say, French in AoE 2, and they give some kind of bonus for your ally if you play team games. That does not exist in AoE 4 at all. When you queue up for team games, you pick a civ, your ally picks a civ, you play against 2 civs, and that's it. Obviously, there's interactions between the civs, with some buffs and stuff like that, but there are no pre-game lobby bonuses. Winning conditions. Now, this is a big one. So winning conditions in AoE 4 are a little bit different than AoE 2. So obviously there's the good old win condition when your opponent just GG's and leaves the game. We also have landmark victory condition. So in AoE 4, your main town center is a landmark. When you age up to age 2, you are building a landmark. Age up to age 3 and 4, you're building another 2 landmarks, right? For 3 and 4. So you have a total of 4 landmarks. Some civs have more, some civs have less. For example, Abbasid only has 2 landmarks, and China can get up to 7 landmarks. And one of the win conditions in AoE 4 is to destroy all the landmarks. So you can eliminate your opponent, not by eliminating all the buildings, but just eliminating the enemy's landmarks. And, if that happens, then they just lose the game. Even if you have less army, less economy, you can just snipe the landmarks and that's it. Obviously, that's not as easy as it sounds, but it's possible. There's the wonder victory. Even in one-on-one, you can build a wonder and get your victory that way. It takes 15 minutes for the wonder to take down before you win. And then the last victory condition, one-on-one or team games, is the sacred sites. So AoE 4 has sacred sites. I'm actually going to get into the game. AoE 4 has sacred sites, which once you capture, they give you passive gold. They give you 100 gold a minute. And if you capture all the sacred sites on the map, some maps have 1 sacred site, some have 2, some have 3, some even have 4. Once you capture them all and hold them for 10 minutes, you win the game. So these are the sacred sites right here. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Once you capture all 3 and hold for 10 minutes, you win the game. And if the opponent steps on it, they can decap it and stuff like that. So there's multiple victory conditions that some of them don't exist in AoE 2. So next thing, Food gather rates. Now this is another interesting one, and I feel like even some of the AoE 4 guys that might have been playing the game for a bit don't really know this, but there are different food gather rates in AoE 4. So the highest gather rate in the game is, I think it's boar, then shoreline fish, if I'm not mistaken, boar with an upgrade, then shoreline fish, then deer, then sheep, then berries. I'm not going to include shoreline fish is higher. Whatever. The most important one, if there's shoreline fish or boar, you definitely want to try and get that. And the deer, berries have lower gather rate than the sheep, but there are some civs that have bonuses specifically for berries. Okay, so that, you know, some civs you want to go for berries initially, some civs you don't. Now, I'm not including unique civ stuff like cows that Malians have, but you can kind of get the general idea. Next one is luring animals in AoE 4. So in AoE 2, you have to like pull like a boar or whatever animal is in the biome, and then you take it back to your town center and then you kill it. In AoE 4, it works differently. There are neutral sheep on the map that you just need to walk next to that you will get. So this is a neutral sheep. If I go next to it, I will capture it, and they kind of run fast. If you would send them to your TC, they are very, very slow, and the opponent can take them. So you want to usually, you want to go around, scout, and then take the sheep back to your town center so that your villagers can gather. Now, while the sheep are in your scout, the opponent cannot take them. Next, there are deer on the map, which you obviously go there and you can kill them and get the food. They have 350 food, berries have 250, which can be increased by some civs. Sheep have 250, but what you can do with the deer, and probably not when you're a new player, but when you're a more experienced player, you can actually push the deer all the way to your town center, which, as you can see, would take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of attention to use, but you can push the deer all the way to your town center. And then we have another animal, I'm trying to find it, which is the wolf right here, the Beastyqt infantry. If the scouts passes next to the wolf will not be aggressive, but if a villager or any unit passes next to the wolf will attack it immediately. They're not super hard to kill, but they can be annoying and they can sometimes randomly kill your villager, so watch out. And the last animal in AoE 4 is Marine Lord's Mom, aka the huntable boar, which has 2,000 food. But the boar deals quite a bit of damage, and when you're going for the boar, you need 8 villagers in order to kill it. And the civs that are Muslim cannot take the boar. Okay, I mean, they can kill it, but then they cannot gather food from it. So that's an important thing to note. And there's another interaction. This is a little bit of civ specific, but if you're playing Rus gets gold from killing the animals, all the animals except sheep. So if you're playing against Rus, you want to deny that from them. Next one. There are no fish traps in AoE 4. So in AoE 2, you can build fish traps on the water and you can get constant food. In AoE 4, it works a little bit different. There are shoreline fish that, you know, if this is water, let's say, shoreline fish would be obviously on the shoreline, and you can gather those with fishing ships or villagers, and they have the highest gathering rate with villagers. But in AoE 4, we don't have the fish traps, but we do have deep water fish, and what that does is it auto replenishes over time. So I'm not sure what the exact number is, but deep water fish replenishes over time and can never be exhausted. It's there for the whole game. So the shoreline fish, on the other hand, has 500 food, and once you get that 500 food, it is done. Another thing in AoE 4 that I'm about to show you is the animal carcasses do not decay like in AoE 2. So if I kill these deer, they're going to be dead there. There's going to be a carcass, but it does not decay in food. It's going to stay there forever. So there you go, 350. It's just going to stay like that. Same with sheep, same with boar. You cannot gather food from wolves. Next one is another big one. Farms in AoE 4 do not cost wood to replenish. So the food on farms is 120, as you can see in the bottom left. But once the farm is made, it will auto-replenish itself, and you do not need to remake the farms at any point using wood. So you pay 75 wood, and that's it. Once the villager goes in that farm, it's going to be gathering. Eventually, it's going to get a little bit of a crop right here. There's going to be an empty space, and I think it's like 45 seconds to 60 seconds later, that will replenish on its own. You don't need to spend any resources or anything else. Next one. In AoE 4, there are neutral trade markets, aka trade posts, and you can trade with it, even in one-on-one. So that's one thing that's important to know. If you play team games, you can trade with your allies market, but you can also just trade in one-on-one with the trade posts. Most maps in AoE 4 do have a trade post in one-on-one. Some maps don't, but that's not very high amount. So trading in one-on-one is one of the strategies that some civs can go for. All right, next one. Let's talk about aging up. So aging up in AoE 2 is obviously done in your town center, almost like command center. In AoE 4, there is only one civ, which is Abbasid, that can age up in House of Wisdom. So basically, they build a building called House of Wisdom, and then they click up an age up there, and they can still produce villagers just fine. You know, nothing changes, because in AoE 2, when you're aging up, you can't produce villagers. Now in AoE 4, all the other civs, when you're aging up, you have option between two landmarks. Every civ has an option between two landmarks, right? 2 landmarks for Feudal, 2 landmarks for Castle Age, and 2 landmarks for Imperial Age. And all these landmarks are completely different. So for example, for French, that I'm showing you, which is one of the basic civs, one landmark acts as a market, and you train 1 free trader for each economic technology research. The other landmark is School of Cavalry, which is more common, and all your stables produce units 20% faster, and this is a stable. So usually you build your landmark with 4 villagers. That is like the most cost-efficient way, so you don't lose too many resources, because landmarks take quite a bit to build. But you can also speed build it with many villagers, which is what I'm going to do, because I'm recording this video. And obviously, as I'm aging up, you can still produce villagers out of all your TCs. You're not stopping anything there. And another thing regarding age up, once I age up to Feudal, I cannot build a second landmark. So Chamber of Commerce, aka Cock, I cannot build it. That's it. If I build School of Cavalry, the Cock is gone forever. Except Chinese, which can build both landmarks at each age. But again, if you want to know more about specific civs, there are guides and videos I have covering for those, explaining those civs in great detail. Next thing I want to talk about is in AoE 2, I think only 1 or few civs, I can't actually remember, can make a town center in Feudal Age. In AoE 4, it's different. Every single civ can make a town center in Feudal Age. So obviously I have max resources, but every single civ can make town center, and right now it is 400 wood, 350 stone. Recently it was 300 stone. It got nerfed to cost more. So I don't know when you're watching this video, but that's the cost of it now. And obviously, depending when you're watching this video, some things might change, but I've tried to stick to non-specific things for this video. Like, I'm not gonna talk civ-specific stuff, mostly just how AoE 4 works. So that's one big thing to consider. I know some of the strategies in AoE 2 are like rushing castle and then booming with multiple TCs. In AoE 4, you can do that in Feudal. Next one, line of sight over wood lines. So one big thing, obviously the map is fully revealed, but in AoE 2 you can see over the wood lines. In AoE 4 you cannot. So let's say I was attacking the blue player, let's say I'm red, whatever, and I'm coming here with my scout and I'm trying to shoot from here there. You cannot see over the wood line. I will be able to see these trees and that's it. So if I wanted to gain vision of these workers, I would have to go in the line of sight like here in order to gain vision. So there's no over trees line of sight unless you're Mongol and you have Khan signal or Khan Falcon that you can put on the woodlines and see. But again, that's very civ specific, so that's something to note. Now you can shoot over the trees, you just don't gain vision. Another thing that is different in AoE 4 compared to AoE 2, is that once you chop down the wood has 150 wood. Once you chop down the wood in AoE 2, you cannot move through the wood, but in AoE 4 you can. So if I chop these trees, I can just chop through and keep going into the next one. So some maps or some strategies require you to chop like this with 1 or 2 villagers in order to get to the other side. Maybe if the whole map is walled off or something, this is something you can do in AoE 4. And another thing is Mangonels cannot destroy trees in AoE 4 like they can in AoE 2. But you can chop through, and obviously the trees are still there, so you can still, you know, chop them. You can just walk over them. Alright, next. Houses in AoE 4 are 10 population. They give you 10 population. They don't give you 5. So if I build this house, you'll see now I'm a 90 supply per population. Once it builds, it's going to be 100. Boom. Next one. The game in AoE 4 is not sped up. So for those that don't know, AoE 2 game is sped up. Someone told me it's 1.7 speed. I don't know if that's correct. Someone told me that. I was like, I'll take that as a fact. In AoE 4, the times, the in-game times, everything is, you know, normal time. It's real time. Another thing about big difference in AoE 4 compared to AoE 2 is there are no hill bonuses. So I actually played AoE 2 a long time ago and someone told me this. I was like, oh, I completely forgot about that. So there's no hill bonus damage done or damage taken reduced if you're standing on a hill. That does not exist in AoE 4. Next. So in AoE 2 there are a lot of unique upgrades you know, that exist in the game, but also sometimes a civ cannot get like a level 2 or level 3 upgrade for something, for some reason. That's just how the game works. In AoE 4, all the generic upgrades, like if it's upgrading knights from feudal knights to veteran knights or to elite knights, which are the imperial knights, every single civ can do that. So you can upgrade your horsemen from feudal horsemen to castle horsemen to imperial horsemen. That does not change at all. And also the basic blacksmith upgrades, which are +1 melee damage, +1 melee armor, +1 range damage, and +1 range armor, every single civ can get. There are no caps like one of the civs can only get to +2 or something like that. That does not exist in AoE 4. So all those generic upgrades every civ has, and you know, doesn't lose out on anything. Next one. You cannot wall with buildings in AoE 4. So as you know, especially if you're playing AoE 2 and you're watching this video, in AoE 2 you can do stuff like this, right? And you could wall this, and this counts as a wall, and then maybe you'll do like a wall from here there, and you're fully walled. In AoE 4, that does not exist. Your workers, your units, enemy units will be walking through the building. So even though these houses are next to each other, you can just walk through, and you can also use that to your advantage when running away from knights or fighting knights, or, you know, with your spearmen or whatever. The way you full wall is by building an actual wall, and also you can build a gate on top of that wall. This is considered a full wall. The houses are not. Conversion. So there's no single target conversion except Abbasid that needs to be upgraded. So in AoE 2 you can do the single monk conversion onto a unit, you can take it. In AoE 4 that does not exist except for one civ. The way that you convert is you take a relic, and once the monk is carrying a relic you can do the WOLOLO, and there's going to be a circle that shows up like this area, and after about 5-6 seconds all the units within that circle will be converted to your units. I'm going to build another landmark right here so I can show you that as well. So yeah, that's one important thing to note. Obviously when you are doing the WOLOLO, the enemy can just snipe your monk, but if you get it off successfully you can turn the game around completely. So we're going to age up, and I'm going to make a monk to show you guys. So yeah, now next, starting resources in AoE 4 will usually be pretty much safe. So you will always have, on most maps, there are some maps that have extra resources, but on most maps in AoE 4 you will have a berry patch like this, you will have gold, you will have stone, that was right here, and you will have one close wood line. This wood line started here, and then one farther away wood line. That is the basic layout in AoE 4 of pretty much all the maps. Now, some maps will only have one wood line, some maps will have maybe a deer pack also close by like this, but that's kind of the general idea. And just so that your starting resources are kind of safe from enemy attacks, and obviously you're still going to need to, you know, make units to defend against actual units. TCs, let's talk about town centers. So a second town center, third town center, fourth, fifth, sixth do not do any damage. So this town center has 0 damage. Once you garrison villagers or units, then it will shoot, okay? But until then, see, now it has 6 attack plus 10 versus ship. And the more units you have inside, the stronger the attack is. Now, the main town center has a base of 8 damage attack, even without any units inside. And the main town center can garrison 15 villagers. The second one can only garrison 10. So the reason I'm mentioning this, in AoE 2, the TCs are kind of underwhelming. Like, you can kind of, like, if this is your scout, and let's say I'm playing AoE 2, you can kind of be like, oh, that's the enemy TC, and you can see the range of this, you know, these dots, that's the range of where the TC shoots. In AoE 2, you can kind of just move through, you can dodge an arrow or two, whatever. Do not do that in AoE 4, you will lose your scout immediately. So the TC will shoot 8 attack per, you know, each time arrow goes out. But if the enemy is on sheep and they garrison all their villagers, your scout will get 2 shot. So yeah, be very, very careful. And if you have only a few units, do not try to fight under TC. It will all end pretty badly for you. Later on, when, you know, have like 20, 30 plus units, you can fight under TCs. You will lose units, but it's not as bad. So it's not like, you know, TCs are just invulnerable and there's nothing can be done about them. Since we covered the TC arrow fire, the next thing I can say is that you cannot dodge arrows in AoE 4. So that is not a thing. Now there are some things that you can dodge. For example, arrow ships on water can be dodged, their attack can be dodged. So once the arrows start moving, if you move to the left, the arrows will land here. They are projectiles. But archers, crossbows, javelin throwers, those are not counted as projectiles, as in you can dodge them. They kind of have auto aim, so the units are hacking. And another thing that can be dodged is Mangonel shot. So I'm going to show you that as well. I'm going to build a couple of these. Mangonel shots can be dodged. Now, here's the monk, and you can see now it's carrying the relic. If you capture the relic, you can take it back to your monastery, and you will get 80 gold per minute. So, this is what the conversion looks like, and this has a cooldown. So, any unit caught in here will get converted immediately for the rest of the game. And now, this is going to go on a 2-minute cooldown. So, this is not something you can spam. Let me make a couple of mangoes as well. Alright, next thing. Some siege in this game can be built by infantry. So, every single civ, once they research siege engineering, except Abbasid, they get this for free. But once you research this, melee and range infantry can construct siege towers and battering rams in the field. So, basically your infantry can build rams, so if you're playing in Feudal against another guy who's going multiple TCs, you can make a couple of rams and you can bust his town center, right? That's kind of the point of it. And there are some civs like Abbasid and Mongol who can actually construct other siege units as well. So most civs can only construct battering ram and siege tower, but Mongol and Abbasid can also construct Mangonels, they can construct Springolds, and Mongol can also make trebuchets. And when you construct siege, it costs 250 wood. You just plop it down and the units will go ahead and make that. Now here, Mangonels, if you look, if I attack the ground, it will not destroy trees, but the way that the shots work is you can dodge this, okay? So the way Mangonels work, just to explain, because this is a big part, obviously, a big part in AoE 2 and they're a big part in AoE 4. If I have units like this, let's pretend that these spearmen are enemy spearmen. If I move the Mangonels, if I attack them, let's say right now they're getting prepared to attack. If the spearmen are moving downwards and I attack, the Mangonel will not shoot there. It will kind of aim hack and it will predict the trajectory of the units. So if the units are moving from here to there and I shoot, the Mangonel will actually shoot here and it will land on units. So this opens up possibilities for micro, because if you're wanting to counterplay Mangonels, you can run at them straight, they shoot, once the shot goes off, you go back, the shot lands, and then you can continue running and you can dodge the Mangonel shot completely. Alright, next. In AoE4, there are wood walls and there are stone walls. Stone walls are much stronger, and while they're building, you can attack them with your, archers, crossbows, spearmen, men-at-arms and try to destroy them. But once they're fully built like this, only siege units can attack them. So Mangonels can attack them. Obviously, they're not going to do a lot of damage, but in order to take the stone walls down, you're going to need bombards or trebuchets, or Mangonels or rams or something. And yeah, obviously you can build also a gate on that, so that's how it is. Now, another thing in AoE 4, you can climb on these walls. So I'm going to show you right now. You can just climb up there. And once you climb up there, you will get a wall defense buff, where it says standing on walls reduces damage taken from ranged and siege attacks by 66%. And increases your attack range by 2 tiles. So you can put your archers, your hand cannoneers, your crossbows on the walls. You take a lot of the damage that you would take is 66% reduced, and you have +2 extra range. So you can use this to your advantage. Next one. There is no friendly fire in AoE 4, so there are demo ships that explode and literally just explode and do damage. They don't have friendly fire. Mangonels don't have friendly fire. Conversion, you cannot convert your allies' units. None of that exists. Stealth Forest. There's a mechanic in AoE 4, which are Stealth Forests, which are these things right here. So these are trees, like individual trees spread out, but this thing that you see right here, the difference between this and this is obviously in this you cannot move through, but Stealth Forest, in order to see and have full vision, in them you either need to have a scout or you need to have a tower nearby, like an outpost. If you don't, basically if I enter right now and if I didn't have the full map vision, this spearman would, line of sight or vision would pretty much be this. So Stealth Forest can be used to ambush your opponents, to, like you can also kind of run away from your opponents. Let's say you're running from some kind of army and they don't have a scout. You can enter Stealth Forest and you could potentially like just change your direction immediately, and if the Stealth Forest is big enough, you can avoid getting your units killed. Next one is the cavalry units, such as horsemen and knights, have a charge attack that has a cooldown, and when the charge completes, they do a lot more damage than their base damage. But also the infantry units in AoE4 have charge attacks. So even units like spearmen have a charge attack where they run faster, and they end up kind of charging the target, doing some damage, and so on and so forth. Same thing with men-at-arms. They do have a charge attack that basically speeds them up a little bit, so that you don't end up running behind cavalry forever and you can never catch up. Obviously, infantry cannot catch up to cavalry, but you can kind of, if the cavalry is running this way, you can kind of intercept them maybe a little bit and get charge off to catch up a little bit. Blacksmith upgrades. Now this is something that I completely forgot when I played AoE 2, but the way upgrades work in AoE 4, we have 4 basic standard upgrades, whatever you want to call them. So this right here, I mentioned it earlier, this increases the melee damage of all non-siege units by +1. So your cavalry, your infantry, even your villagers will get +1 melee attack, melee damage. Now I already have +2, so if you look, my units have 12 +2, my spearmen have 9 +2. And the armor, the fitted leatherwork, increases the melee armor of all non-siege units by +1. So the way this works is if I upgrade this, all my units, right, even cavalry, even ranged infantry, even melee infantry will get +1 melee armor. So it will have +1 armor against spearmen, against cavalry, against men-at-arms. The next one is Stilled Arrow, increases the range damage of all non-siege units and buildings, so this is very important. Once you get Stilled Arrow, not only your archers will do +1 damage, your crossbows, but also your town center together with the garrison villagers will do +1 damage as well. And then the last upgrade is under Iron Undermash, which increases the ranged armor of all non-siege units. So all your units, cavalry, melee infantry, ranged infantry, will have +1 armor against ranged attacks. So that's another important thing to talk about. Now, keeps in AoE 4 do not produce units like in AoE 2. I can't remember, but in AoE 2 a lot of the units, unique units, are produced from keeps. In AoE 4, not so much. They are mostly a defensive building, and which leads me to the last topic that I wanted to mention and talk about, which are towers, aka outposts, and keeps. So once you build a tower, aka outpost, it has 750 health, and it has 3 different emplacements. Like, this is one thing that a lot of the guys from AoE 2 coming to AoE 4 mentioned that I didn't quite understand. So in Feudal Age, you can upgrade arrow slits. In Castle Age, you can upgrade springled emplacement. And in Imperial Age, you can upgrade cannon emplacement. Now, you can only choose one of these 3 for this tower. So if I had more towers, you know, this tower can be arrow slits, this tower can be springled, this tower can be bombard emplacement. And all the towers will have Fortify Outpost, which will give you 1000 health to the tower and 5 fire armor to this outpost, so that melee units would do less damage to it, because melee units throw torches at buildings. So if I were to get arrow slits, again, this is a feudal upgrade. It basically gives arrow attack to the tower and increases the garrison arrow range by 1. Springled is like a single target attack, but it's a lot stronger. The attack speed is lower, so it's a little bit better than the arrow one. And then cannon emplacement is basically the most expensive one. You get it in Imperial, and it deals AoE damage when it hits, so it's very, very strong. Now here's a keep in AoE 4. Keeps do, some keeps do different types of damage. Like Chinese keep shoots like little cannonballs kind of thing. French keep shoots arrows. Most keep shoots arrows, to be honest. And you also have emplacements on those. So if I were to get sprinkled emplacement, I will still have the arrow attack on the keep. But once I get the sprinkled attack, it will basically get a second attack on that. And if you get sprinkled upgrade, you can also get cannon emplacement later on the keep, but not on the towers. So on the towers, once I get an emplacement, I cannot get any other. On keeps, you can get both. And there's also boiling oil, which exists in AoE2, right? Also, there's no minimum range for keeps. So if units are, like, this is the range of the keep where you can shoot. But if units are in melee range, you don't need any upgrades or anything. The keeps will still be able to shoot. So yeah, that's it. Those are the major differences that I wanted to mention to you guys between AoE 2 and AoE 4. Again, if you're maybe coming from AoE 2 or any other game, or you've played AoE 2 in the past and you kind of want to find the familiar things or differences, here they are. Like I said, all the civs are very unique in their own way. So you should definitely try to figure out which civ suits you the most. Some civs are more defensive, some civs are more tech oriented, some civs have stronger units but they're more expensive, or they cost, you know, more upgrades to get in order to be in their prime. Some civs are more aggressive, and so on and so forth. So yeah, check it out. Are there shortcut differences? I mean, there's a lot of hotkeys in AoE 4. I don't know the exact hotkeys in AoE 2, so yeah. Regarding siege units, let me quickly mention that. So regarding siege units, some siege units from AoE 2 do not exist in AoE 4. So in AoE 4, you have rams, you have trebuchets, you have mangonels, you have springles, which are anti-siege siege, So when there's Mangonels on the field, you want to build Springles. French has Cannon, which is a unique unit to them, but most other civs will have Bombard in this place, which is kind of like a heavy siege that's used to destroy keeps from range or towers or walls. Then there's the Ribaldequin, which I think 4 civs have, which is kind of like it's a 5-barrel gunpowder weapon that deals splash damage, but it's kind of up close. That gets countered by ranged units. Then you have Nest of Bees, which is Chinese unique one. But in general, these 4 right here, plus Bombard, aka Cannon in this case, are your 5 standard ones. So there's no Scorpions, or what's the other siege that gets pushed by the guy? Yeah, there's also Culverins, which are kind of like just better Springles in a way. They serve the same purpose, but not every single civ has them. So yeah, that's it. I hope I helped you out. Again, if you are wondering what civ to play in AoE 4, I have a bunch of videos explaining every single civ in AoE 4, all their bonuses, all their unique units, general playstyles of each civ. And if you decide on a civ, like let's say you want to play English, I also have guides for builders for those civs and general ideas and general kind of strategies and what you should be looking out for and so on and so forth. If you're watching on YouTube, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something new. I hope you try AoE 4, or if you played AoE 4 before, I hope you give it a go again. Again, the game is about to have a very, 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 very big expansion soon, and I think a lot of the players, old, new, are going to be interested in trying it out. So I figured, why not make this video and help some of the AoE 2 players that want to check it out kind of transition into it, because I'm getting a lot of questions on my Twitch chat. You know, I'm coming from AoE 2, why does this not work this way, and so on and so forth. So I figured video is the best one. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now playing AoE 4. If you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going.